Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you join us. Welcome to Clarus Wealth's latest webinar in our Lunch and Learn series, where we aim to give you bite-sized, easily digestible finance whilst leaving you still enough time to get back to your lunch. Today's session is all about planning for retirement. I'm Sarah Roughsedge, founding co-director of Clarus Wealth, a chartered financial planning firm with hubs in both Surrey and Somerset. If you joined us for last month's webinar, you'll know that throughout this year, we have a series of webinars planned for you. And as we're recording each of them, any that you miss or that you want to share with friends or colleagues will be available to view on our website. We will, of course, send out to you a reminder of upcoming webinars via our mailing list. So do sign up if you haven't already. And reminders will also be posted on all the main social media platforms. Again, do follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter to make sure that you do receive our latest communications. Now, these webinars are designed to be no more than around 30 minutes long, and each will focus on a specific subject. Today's session, Shaping the Future That You Want Through Pension Planning, has the following three objectives. Firstly, we're going to recap on the basics of pensions. Secondly, we're going to provide you with a starting point for planning your future. And thirdly, to help you identify how do you fill any gaps and how can you improve your overall retirement position. Now, first of all, just a little bit of housekeeping before we go any further. Now, Clarus Wealth is part of the Best Practice IFA group, which is a high-end award-winning network with chartered status. And I should also just point out that clearly, given this is a public presentation, nothing within should be considered personal advice. It's more for general information and educational purposes. And lastly, if you have any questions at all at any stage during this presentation, please just note them down and do send them in to us via the question facility. We'll make sure that we do respond to you. As we move into this webinar, I'm just going to disappear from the screen for a while. Some of the slides here, I want them to fill the whole screen. They're a little bit more detailed and they might have a bit more information on them. So actually, if I disappear off screen and let my slides fill the whole screen, it just might be a little bit easier for you to see what we're talking about and reference some of the figures and things like that. So I'm going to disappear, but I will reappear at the end to say goodbye before we finish. So let's begin. So today is all about shaping the future that you want. Now, ultimately, that means planning for your retirement. But retirement can mean many different things to different people. You'll find that your history, your perspective, your goals, your drive, your exhaustion, watching family and friends journey their retirements, that will all likely determine what the idea of retirement means to you. Not only that, but actually research is showing that the concept of what working life and retirement looks like is also fast changing for the younger generations. And therefore, this idea of retirement is likely to continue to develop and change over the coming years. Now, according to the Pension Policy Institute, there are 11 million people between the age of 50 and state pension age. So in other words, 11 million people who are sort of round about retirement age. Now, their research suggests that 3 million of these people will not receive a minimum pension. 10 million of these will not receive a comfortable pension. And 5 million will not receive a pension income that is personally acceptable to meet their own goals. So half of those reaching pensionable age are unlikely to receive their desired pension income. This is a huge number. In the UK, government data from around 2017-18 showed that 67% of pension income actually comes from private pensions. Now, we think this is a really significant number, and also given how company pensions are changing, our expectation is that this will actually only increase. Now, another way of saying this is that for most of us, in the future, we will need to ensure that we have accrued sufficient pension savings ourselves to meet our retirement needs, rather than purely rely on a company pension to provide us with a guaranteed lifetime income. So if we want to be in the 10% of individuals receiving a comfortable pension in retirement, the onus really is on each of us to be intentional about our pension savings. Whilst many of us are likely to already be saving into a pension, which has been greatly encouraged through the implementation of auto-enrolment, do we though actually know what pension income we will need in our retirement? Now, in 2019, the Pension and Life Savings Association published their research, which you can see the output of here. It showed that 77% of savers don't know how much they'll need in retirement, and only 16% of savers can give a figure. One of the aims of their research was actually to help people to get to a number and to really start thinking about what their number might be. Now, as a result, they produced this illustration. So let me just explain this image for you. If we take the bottom right-hand corner, this is showing a couple in London looking for a comfortable retirement should aim for at least £51,500 per annum of income. Now, the research suggests that this amount of income should facilitate a £60 weekly food shop, 3-week holiday in Europe each year, £1,200 a year spend on clothes, and the ability to replace your car every 5 years with a 2-year-old model. Now, each of us will have our own interpretation of what comfortable means. Is a 3-week holiday in Europe what you are aiming for in retirement? Or did you maybe have in mind a 2-week cruise, some other international holidays? Do you have family overseas who you're looking to visit regularly? Things like this, while your health allows, often people want to travel more. Perhaps your own intention for replacing your car is different from what is suggested here. But really, the point that we're trying to make here is that without actively considering and planning what your retirement might look like, there is a high chance that you might get to this stage and then discover that your pension is insufficient to facilitate your objectives. And so, really, the key point here is that it's essential to actively plan for your retirement in order to give you the best chance of achieving what you're hoping for. Okay, so to make sure that we're all starting from the same line, let's just have a little recap on a few basics surrounding pensions. So there are three main types of pensions that we're going to consider today. Firstly, we've got the state pension. Now, you will all be familiar with this, so I won't dwell on it too much, but just to mention a few points here. Today, we've got the full state pension, which is currently £185.15 a week, and this equates to £9,628 a year. Now, if we think back to this chart that we saw just now, this amount of income that we can generate from the state pension is actually less than the suggested income need for a single individual looking for a minimum lifestyle. You can see that in the top left-hand box. So clearly, state pension in isolation is not going to be sufficient. Now, the state pension will increase every year, and it's not currently means tested. But you do need to have a minimum of, well, you do need to have 35 qualifying years to be eligible for the full state pension, or a minimum of 10 years to be qualifying for some of the state pension. So don't get caught out and assume that you have a full allocation. Do make sure that you check this. And this might sound pretty basic, but actually this is a particular trap for non-working parents. If you're in receipt of child benefit, that will automatically allocate that year to your contribution history. But high earners can easily fall into this trap if they're switching off this benefit due to threshold income. So it's always just worth checking with HMRC. Now, we will always recommend that our clients obtain a state pension forecast. This, which is also known as a BR19, you can request this from the gov.uk website, and it will help you to identify if you have any gaps in your contribution history and whether you are likely to receive the full state pension. Now, you will also possibly be familiar with the state pension age changing over recent years. And since 2018, the age that you can claim your state pension has been gradually increasing, and it's currently set to increase to age 67 by 2028. Now, whilst £19,000 odd pounds will be a significant sum for many, for those of you listening, it may seem like more of an insignificant amount compared to your current earnings or your desired level of income in retirement. However, don't underestimate the impact of this secure increasing annual income. It will help to reduce the strain on your other resources to meet your income need, and therefore the increase in the state pension age may also have a subtle effect on your retirement plans. It may be necessary for some people to consider retiring later, or for others considering how you'll meet this shortfall before your state pension commences. It may not seem like a big number to some, but it is fundamental housekeeping which will serve you well. Now, my main focus today is not the state pension, but the other two types of pension that you see here, defined contribution and defined benefit pensions. So let's start with defined benefit pensions. Now, these are often referred to as the gold top pensions. Defined benefit pensions, or final salary pensions as they are also widely known, are employer schemes that pay you a pension income for the rest of your life. Now, this amount will be based on the number of years of your service and your earnings, either in your last year of employment or your average earnings. There are different variations, so if you are fortunate enough to have a DB pension, it will be important to understand how your benefits are accrued. So defined benefit pensions will typically offer a spouse's pension, and they will increase in line with inflation each year. So they do provide peace of mind that you and your spouse will always have an income for the rest of your lives. When the last of you dies, your pension then effectively dies with you. These types of pensions will also typically be payable, excuse me, from a set pension age. So if you want to access your pension any earlier than this, there is usually a hefty penalty to do so. And this is usually reflected by way of a reduced pension income. So if you're thinking about this, always check with your scheme to find out whether there is a reduction in your income if you are looking to retire early. You may find that utilising other income sources in the earlier years of retirement is sensible in order to allow you to receive an unreduced pension at the scheme normal retirement age. So that's defined benefit pensions. Now, what about defined contribution pensions? Because these are rather different. So instead of the promise of an income at retirement, which is calculated based on your earnings and your length of service, a defined contribution pension value is based on your contributions to the pension, plus any employer or third-party contributions, plus any investment growth. This then all accumulates into a pot which could hold any value depending on these factors. The value of that accrued pension pot can then be used to provide you with your income. Now, here the options become wonderfully flexible, which gives you the ability to tailor your income to your retirement needs. However, there is no certainty of what your income will be whilst you accrue your pension, a stark contrast from the defined benefit pension environment. And also, instead of the onus being on the employer to ensure that your pension income is met, the onus falls entirely on you. Now, unless you know what your number is, what you want your future to look like, and what that equates to as an income in retirement, will you know whether A, your pension pot that you are accruing will convert to the level of income that you seek in retirement, and B, do you understand how your pension is invested and what impact this could have on the likelihood of you achieving your income target? So remember, with your state pension and your defined benefit pension, you'll receive that guaranteed income for the rest of your life once they become payable. How much you receive will be dependent on your national insurance history and your employer's pension scheme rules. With a defined contribution pension, the options available to you are much wider. So essentially, you could choose to take flexible income from your pension. In other words, you can retain your pension, leaving your money invested, and then simply draw out a regular income from it. We often talk about this like turning on a tap. You can turn it on as fast or as slow as you want and control the rate of income that comes out. Or instead of doing this, you could take just ad hoc lump sums as and when you need them, tailored around what your needs are. Alternatively, you could convert your pension into an annuity, which does have a similar look and feel to a defined benefit pension in the sense that an annuity will provide you with a guaranteed income, although this is in exchange for your pension pot. And then there is always the option of doing nothing. You could choose to delay taking your money from your pension until the time is actually right for you. So lots of options, and they all enable you to facilitate the retirement that you are looking for. So that's just a bit of a recap on pensions, just to make sure that we're all on the same page if I refer to any of these types of pensions today. Now, as I alluded to, it's all good and well having a pension or two, but simply having a pension is not the answer to shaping the future that you want. So, how do you go about finding what your number is to be able to either start building towards this or checking that you've got there? Well, first and foremost, I would suggest start daring to dream. Don't just wait to fall into retirement. Think about, what will your days look like? Do you have family that you will want to visit? Will you want to continue to work but in a different environment? Will you eat out more? Will you visit the theatre, travel, take more holidays? Will you want to buy a second home somewhere? Will you join more clubs or stop memberships? Perhaps take up a course or a hobby that requires a financial commitment. Some employers do now offer retirement advice or planning reviews, as they recognise that for someone who has worked hard their whole life, stopping work overnight can be a dramatic and sometimes unhealthy experience. Although, of course, for others, it can be an absolute pleasure. But giving yourself time to explore what your time will look like once you are retired, only then can you really know what future it is that you are working towards. Then we would say that preparing a budget is a really, really important thing to do. Now, this can be difficult when you are looking some way off into the future. Often people will use what the government suggests, which is to aim for a budget of 60% of your salary. Or alternatively, if you don't know where to start, you could use the figures we saw earlier. But here are some additional thoughts that will help to make it more personal to you. First of all, note down and break down your budget. What do you spend now? What does that look like? Where are your costs? What are your essentials? What are your nice to haves? What do the kids cost you if you have children? Will you still have the mortgage in retirement, or will that be a cost that is removed? Do you enjoy luxury holidays? What do they look like? How often do you want to go on holiday? And then all those other things that I mentioned earlier that you've started to think about filling your retirement with. Understanding what your base level needs are will be vital in moving ahead with your planning. This is the absolutely must-have income. Thereafter, categorizing various needs in priority order helps you to then understand the priority of certain spends, what you absolutely can't live without, and then what are the nice to haves. So do make sure you draft out your budget. Great, so you've got a potential budget, and now how do you then know if you've saved enough to then meet that target? Converting your income need into a lump sum figure can be quite difficult, and the actual number will only actually be known at your point of retirement. Building in your state pension and any defined pension benefit expectations, at that stage, that's more straightforward. You've got those income numbers, you can add them into your expectations. But money purchase pensions, that's actually much harder to know what your final pot value will be and what income that will then generate. Now, this table here, it was published recently on the 5th of May in the Telegraph, and it shows some data which was compiled by Brew and Dolphin. I thought it would be really helpful and provide perhaps a starting point. Now, you've got different money purchase pot sizes across the top, and then different income options down the side. Obviously, each figure is based on various factors and assumptions, so please don't take any of this as guaranteed. Now, here you can see, for example, a pension fund of £500,000 could pay you a secure, increasing annual income, also known as an annuity, of just over £19,500. Now, by contrast, if you were to leave your pension invested and draw an income from that invested pension via drawdown, this annual income could be increased to just under £34,000. Now, this may sound higher, but the first income figure will be guaranteed for the rest of your life, so no matter how long or short you live. With drawdown, the onus is on you to ensure that your pension is not depleted too quickly. So this figure of 34,000 here in this example is on the basis that you live to age 85. However, if you actually lived until age 95, then the income that you could have drawn would actually have been lower. it would have been closer to £25,000 a year because it has had to last you for this further 10 years. Similarly, a pension pot of £1 million could provide an annuity income of £39,500 a year, or £67,500 if utilising drawdown. Though, as mentioned, there are no guarantees with a drawdown pension that you will be able to achieve these investment returns that you need or desire, and therefore your money could run out, which is very unlike the annuity option. Now, obviously, none of these figures shown here are guaranteed, but they may offer a reasonable expectation for the level of income that a pension pot of these values could hope to provide. Now, as many of our clients will attest to, we spend a great deal of time planning for the future using specialist software. And while it doesn't guarantee a future position, it can help to show potential implications and outcomes. It can also help identify what action is needed to achieve your budgeted goals and objectives. So, in our opinion, it's vital that you start running financial health checks as soon as possible in order to give yourself the best opportunity to achieve your desired future. Now, I know we've only really mentioned pensions so far, and of course, retirement income doesn't have to come solely from pensions. And indeed, in certain cases, not taking pension funds but using other assets can actually be the best course of action. Now, pensions are a great way of building a retirement fund. They can offer fantastic tax benefits and great flexibility. However, pensions have seen their tops and their tails squeezed more and more over recent years, and a lot of high earners are finding that they are greatly restricted by how much they can put into their pension or accrue without a tax penalty. So, in our opinion, building a portfolio of different vehicles to help with your retirement income can be an incredibly effective and efficient way to deliver this. In fact, I would probably go as far as saying that it's absolutely essential where your desired income is greater than, say, around £50,000 a year, for example. There are other taxation allowances available, and careful planning to make the best use of these is therefore hugely valuable. Now, it's true, if you've worked with us, you would have heard us say, never let the tax tail wag the dog. But careful planning, such as holding the right asset in the right account in the right name, can make a significant difference. So here we've got an example. These two charts show where in both cases investment growth, inflation and product charges are all identical. The examples show Dave, who is 45 and he's employed earning £120,000 per annum. Now in one scenario, Dave has a pension, and in the other scenario, Dave instead has an ISA. In both examples, Dave starts with £250,000 in his pot, and he personally contributes £10,000 a year. Now, the green chart shows Dave's ISA, and the blue chart shows Dave with a pension. Now, if we look at the end point on these charts, we can see that there is a difference in value of approximately £74,000 at age 67 in favour of the pension. Now, you could be forgiven for initially thinking that the pension was therefore a far more favourable route than the ISA. But as many of you will know, this, of course, is only part of the picture. So contributions into pensions generally provide tax relief on their way in, but withdrawals out of pensions beyond the initial 25% tax-free lump sum are then taxable on their way out. ISAs are essentially the reverse of this. Contributions receive no tax relief on the way in, but withdrawals are tax-free on the way out. So actually, if you can combine these two approaches, this can really help to increase flexibility, tax management and output, and actually therefore help you capture the best of both these worlds. Now, in this example, I have used a pension and an ISA, but there are various other types of investments that can help to build a wider asset base for your income to be generated as tax efficiently as possible, and also gives you the opportunity to take into account any wider financial planning needs, for example, such as inheritance tax planning. So, having spent some time visualizing what you would like your retirement to look like, reviewing what that translates to in terms of an annual income need, do you have any gaps or areas of improvement that you can then address? So here are some simple housekeeping tasks that you can undertake to make sure that leave no stone unturned. First of all, trace any old pensions that you may think you have. It's amazing how many people have accrued pensions over the years and have forgotten about them. Contact the scheme administrators and ask them for a current statement. If you can't find any pensions, you can use the government website to trace a lost pension. Review your contributions and your investment selection for any defined contribution pensions. Request a state pension forecast, as I said, also called a BR19. Now, this will show you how many qualifying years you currently have and whether you are on target to qualify for a full state pension by state retirement age. If you are short on any years, you can request a quote for paying voluntary contributions to try and plug any gaps that there may be. Review your expectations. Do you have enough time to build your retirement fund to the level that you need it to be to achieve your desired lifestyle? Do you understand the level of investment risk that you are taking within your pensions and investments? Do you need to review when you are wanting to retire or what your retirement may look like? Remain objective with your planning. Don't get swayed by the latest investment fad or bright idea from your colleague. Stick with your plan. Understand why it is going to work and remind yourself, if something sounds too good to be true, it most often is. Stay disciplined, stay the course, and be committed to your plan. You can, of course, engage a financial planner. Have a professional there to walk with you through your planning, sense check your aims and objectives. A financial planner will advise you on the best combination of assets to make sure that your investment portfolio is suitable for you, and also that you are taking advantage of all applicable tax allowances. They will help you to keep on track and focused, which should ultimately increase your chance of achieving your desired future. Now, you are probably all ready to escape for lunch. So before you go, just to recap on today's bite-sized retirement planning session. Now, of the 11 million people between the age of 50 and state pension age, 5 million will not receive a pension income that's personally acceptable to meet their goals. Now, to help you avoid inadvertently falling into that category, think about what you want your future to really look like. If you really have no idea, you could start by using 60% of your income as a target. But do think, what is your number? Then understand what sort of pensions you have. How much is your pension likely to provide you with? And how and when will it be payable? What other assets should you look to accrue alongside your pension to maximise your tax efficiency both now and in retirement? What other considerations do you have? Do you have pension annual allowance or lifetime allowance issues, inheritance tax concerns, or security of income concerns? Make sure that you plug any gaps where you can. Appraise your objectives and your expectations, and then commit to your plan. Of course, a financial planner can help coordinate this for you and help you evaluate your situation and identify the best way forward for you in your planning. So, as we bring this to a close, I'm back. Thank you for joining us today. Now, I hope that you found this session useful, and if it's raised any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch. We look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar at the end of June, and we'll be sending out details about this shortly. So do keep an eye out for that. Enjoy your lunch, and thank you for joining us.